It all began on the day the railway station dispatcher faced an emergency. His workstation was located in the train traffic control center, where he monitored the movements of trains across a massive junction. The job demanded absolute concentration. There was no room for distraction, not even for a coffee break or a bathroom visit. Only a 15-minute shift change allowed him a brief moment to relax. Despite the high pay, the job was incredibly high stakes. The lives of passengers depended on the dispatcher's decisions. The intense pressure and constant stress didn't frighten him. When he sat down at the control panel, the rest of the world seemed to fade away, leaving only the image of speeding trains. On that fateful day, the monitors suddenly showed a repair crew of 5 men in bright yellow jackets. They had positioned themselves on the left track and began laying out tools on the rails. The dispatcher found no notice of scheduled maintenance. At the same time, on the right track, an intruder appeared. A man who had decided to cross the tracks in an unauthorized spot, even though a pedestrian bridge stood just 100 meters away. As he stepped over the rails, he tripped and fell, his clothes snagged beneath the rail. The dispatcher hit the emergency button, triggering the alarm. But it was too late. An express train, running behind schedule, was speeding ahead with no intention of stopping. The train had already reached the critical point of the route where the tracks split into 2 directions. The man, who had trained in emergency simulations, realized the horror of the situation. The full weight of responsibility rested on him. He stood alone before this dilemma, with no outside support. A cold sweat broke over him, and time seemed to freeze. The other dispatchers, trying to say something, appeared motionless. The shift supervisor's face was a mask of genuine terror, his eyes wide, arms spread. The train kept accelerating as it approached the fork. The driver didn't slow down, and in that critical moment, the dispatcher instinctively switched the points toward the right track, where the trapped man was still struggling to free himself. Unable to bear what was happening, the dispatcher closed his eyes. The investigation later proved his actions had been flawless. Those who failed to notify him about the repair crew were held responsible. Yet, the dispatcher could never forget the faces of the 3 people he saw in court: the dead man's mother, his wife, and his 8-year-old son. Their eyes were filled with sorrow. Though they never voiced accusations, that silent grief inflicted deep wounds. The court acquitted the dispatcher, and the true culprits were punished. But the emotional scars ran so deep that he could never return to his job. After the tragedy, he was removed from dispatch duties and reassigned to the archives department to handle documentation. The solitary archive office became a kind of prison for him. Yet, it was the isolation he sought, a refuge from his demons. He was haunted by guilt over the man who had died. But why? His decision had been correct. 1 life versus 5, anyone would have done the same. Yet, at night, he was tormented by nightmares of that trio: the mother, the wife, and the son. Why did their gazes pierce his soul? No one could answer those questions. Whenever he crossed the familiar bridge on his way home, he avoided looking down at the site of the tragedy. But one evening, as he trudged slowly across, he found himself leaning against the railing, staring at the tracks below. Suddenly, movement caught his eye. Pressing against the railing, he spotted a dog between the rails, its paw trapped between the ties. Through the city noise, he heard the faint whimpers of the stray. The familiar rumble of an approaching train echoed through the air, warning the animal. In that moment, past and present merged. Memories flooded back, but now, he knew this story could have a different ending.